Yes, so when you're ready, start lying down on your mat. And I was thinking we would particularly do some things around the hips and pelvis, but because we're starting a little bit early, while we're just waiting for everyone to arrive, we'll do a couple of upper back things. And yeah, so settle down onto your back. You can have your knees bent or your legs long to start with, so whichever is most comfortable. And the first thing you could do, you're right there, Jan.
Yes.
The first thing you could do is just to settle yourself down and maybe bring your hands onto the front of your body and gather your attention into your breathing.
Kara, I've got my back is slightly twingy.
It's
been on and off for a week or two.
Okay.
It's okay. I'm just just aware it's not quite 100%. So just what I'm wondering, what's best?
Well, see which feels best. Yeah, absolutely. So if we start gathering our attention into our breathing, and later on in this class, we're going to be coming back to the viloma breathing we've been doing the last couple of weeks. But what I'd like you to do to start with is just gathering your attention into your natural breath. And maybe the first thing is to notice where you feel your breath in your body and how your breathing feels. Hi May, we're just starting lying down with a little bit of breathing and then some movement. We're a little bit early. Hi Mel, we're lying down. So those people are already here. We're just starting lying on our backs, feeling the movement of the breath in the body. And just taking that little bit of time to settle and arrive. And a couple of people have mentioned to me, Sally and Jan mentioned to me sort of backs that are not quite right. And I think what Sally said is so important is if there's things you're avoiding in your practice because you think, oh, that just doesn't feel right, then it's really important that you're led by that sort of sense, you have of your body. So we're starting lying down, Helen and Mel. And maybe the first thing you could do once you're settled on your back is just start to let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And as you do so, you can let your head feel heavy, feel the back of your head in contact with the ground. Hi Sarah, hi Francis, we're just starting lying down when you're ready. And from rolling your head, finding a comfortable place to settle the back of your head on the ground. And then let's just, before we come to, as I said, we were going to be focusing on sort of around the hips and pelvis. But before we do that, let's just come to one movement for the, actually, let's first we'll just come to tilting our knees a little bit from side to side. So let's do that one, that familiar one where we bend our knees, we stand our feet on the floor. Oh, good, Sally. And that's obviously something that feels good for you. We let our knees tilt to the right and to the left. So Rosie, okay, Atticus is deciding to let you move now. It was very cute seeing him sitting on you. Good, so letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's very nice. Lovely. And so some of you have already mentioned things that you're aware of in your body, but by doing this little movement of your knees tilting side to side, you might become aware of you might become aware of other things in your body that you weren't perhaps so aware of, little twinges or tightnesses or aches or so on. And then let's just settle the knees down for a moment, and we'll come to one movement for the upper body, and then we'll start to focus around the pelvis a bit more. So settle down either with your legs long or your knees bent. And when you're ready, you're going to take your arms up towards the ceiling, and you're going to make a big circle with your arms. So you interlink your fingers. So you've got your hands immediately above your chest. You can look at me if you're not sure. Your hands are above your chest. You've made this big circle with your arms, as if you're holding a beach ball on your chest. And then you're going to start to rock side to side across your upper back. So letting your head roll in the same direction as your arms. So keeping your circle circular, you're rocking to the right and to the left across your upper back. Good. And so we just start to give ourselves a little bit of a massage for the upper back. Good. Sorry, someone is struggling to join the class. I'm just wondering if I can send them the link. Do good, that's it, rocking across the upper back, lovely. And then just bring your arms down to rest. That's it. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and bring your feet to stand on the floor. And come back again to a few times of tilting your knees to the right and to the left. And just feel here how you're rocking side to side across the back of your pelvis. And then what I'd like you to do is pause in the centre and start to let your knees move away from each other and then back towards each other. That's it. So let your knees move wide and then back in towards each other. Good. And see how this feels. So this is a different movement now. We're starting to move into the hip joints a little bit more. So obviously we can probably take our knees wide, wider than we can take them. Whereas when we take our knees in towards each other, they're going to bump onto each other. So you could try taking your feet a little bit wider apart, but that might hinder how wide you can take your knees. So there are a few compromises to be made here. But just do this a few more times, and then we're going to move on to another variation. So knees moving away from each other and then in towards each other. Good. And then what I'd like you to do is just pause in the centre and fold your right knee into your chest. So keep your left foot standing on the floor. That's it. And then once you've folded your right knee in towards your chest, you're going to lengthen it up towards the ceiling, your right leg. And you could support your right leg with your hands, perhaps either side of your thigh, with your fingers interlinked around the back of your thigh. And now you're going to do the same movement. You're going to take both legs away from each other. And then as your legs come towards the centre, you can cross the long leg in front of the bent knee. Okay, so I'm just going to come in. Yeah, that's it. So that's it, Sarah. So you're holding. I'll angle myself so you can see me. So that's it. You're holding around the long leg, or you're just holding on to it somehow, and then you're letting your legs move out to the side away from each other, and then you're crossing your legs. Good. So that's it. Very nice. Good. Make sure that's it. Your knee, your foot that's on the floor is tilting. So that knee is coming out to the side and then it's moving. Good. It's moving sort of cross in front or behind the other leg. Well done. Lovely. And whenever you've had enough of this, next time your long leg crosses your bent knee, cross it all the way over and bend your top leg and bring it to rest over your bottom leg. So you've got your right knee crossed over your left knee now. Yeah, are we all there? Right knee crossed over the left knee. So your left foot is standing on the floor and you're going to start to rock your crossed knees up. So that's it. So May, it's fine. You'll sort of do your own thing now. But we've got our right knee crossed over our left knee, and the left foot standing on the floor. And you're rocking your feet your knees side to side. That's it. So yeah, you've crossed the right knee's crossed over the left now, and you're rocking your knees from side to side. Everyone is there. Otherwise, those of you I can see. Good. That's very nice. Lovely. And you can do that just a few more times. Very nice. Ah, good, Mel, I can see you now. And then in your own time, you're going to uncross your legs and then just fold both knees into your chest for a moment. And you can hold around your knees. You can rock a little bit from side to side or circle around the back of your pelvis. And you can take your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. Good. Lovely. And then we're going to come back and do all of those movements on the other side. So come back to having both knees bent, both feet standing on the floor. And then you're going to take your left leg up towards the ceiling. And again, you're going to hold somehow onto your left leg, however is comfortable for you. It could be that you have your elbows on the floor and you're sort of rocking your long left leg into one hand and into the other. So we've got our legs moving away from each other. And then our legs coming to the center and your long left leg is crossing in front of your bent right knee. Good. Good. And so keep that foot that's on the floor. Good. So keep both legs moving away from each other. This looks very nice. It looks very nice on Zoom. And then whenever you've had enough of that leg being long, cross that left leg over the right leg and bend the knee. So you've got your knee. That's it. So bring your left leg over your right leg, bend your left knee, and then come to rocking from side to side on your standing foot, which should be your right foot. Gosh, far too many lefts and rights at this point in the day. Very nice.
You're very good at explaining it all.
It's very kind of you, Jan. Sometimes I get into a bit of a pickle.
I think you have to really concentrate on your instructions. It's good. It's really good.
So a couple more times, let your knees tilt to the right and to the left, and then you're going to uncross your legs, fold your knees back into your chest, and a little bit of rocking with your knees folded into your chest, or you can circle around the back of your pelvis. You could also take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a little bit of a shake out. Good. So in a moment, we're going to come over onto hands and knees. So it might be that you just want to put another couple of breaths on your back. You could lengthen your legs out if you wanted to on the ground, or you could roll onto your side, have a couple of quiet breaths there. So we're going to come over onto hands and knees in a moment when you're ready. We're going to do a little bit more movement. And then I wanted us to come to do a little bit of breathing. So to revisit the viloma breathing we were doing last week. And we'll look at it a couple of times, sort of a couple of short periods. But first of all, come on to hands and knees. And what I'd like you to do when you arrive on hands and knees is come to your cat movements and see how they feel today. So Sally, it might just be avoiding your dipping down cat. So you might just, I don't know whether cat is a problem. If it is, just go from being flat to rounding your back. So in your own time, a few times on hands and knees, rounding your and dipping your spine in cat. And you can also do a little bit of tail wagging if you like. So imagine you have a tail, wagging that tail from side to side. That might be good for the lower backs that are feeling a bit creaky. And whenever you're ready, you're going to come into a dog pose and just very much use it as a sort of, what do I say? Just a, how does dog pose feel today? So don't worry if this dog pose feels creaky and tight. Just come into your dog and have a few breaths in dog. And then what we're going to do is do some other things before we come back to dog. So come into dog, have a few breaths. Don't have to stay there long. Remember to bend your knees a lot if the backs of your legs are feeling tight. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Just another breath or two in dog pose. That's nice. Good. We're very colourful this morning on Zoom. I like all the yellow, orange, purple. Very nice. And so when we come down from dog, we're actually going to do a few more hip things in sit. So come and sit first of all in cobbler pose, and possibly face, if you want to carpet, it doesn't really matter. So lean back onto your hands, bring your feet into cobbler pose and just see how that feels. That's nice. Good. And you can see how it feels to walk your hands in a little bit. So use all of these things. And again, you know, just keep them easy. Lean back if that's more comfortable, or if you're happy to hold your feet or your ankles, you can do that. And then let's for a moment just see how it feels to lengthen the legs out, to take the legs long and wide. So lean back, take the legs long and wide. You can give the legs a little bit of a roll. That's nice. Very nice. And again, if you're someone who's very happy with this wide-legged sitting, you could bring your hands forward. So just a moment. We'll come back to this, I think, yeah, after we've done a couple of other sitting things. But just if you're very happy here, you can see how it feels to fold forwards. If it's a little bit more challenging, keep your weight back on your hands. Good. Lovely. So from here, you can either have another few breaths with your legs long and wide, or if you're happier in cobbler pose, come back to cobbler pose. That's it. Yeah, we could do a little bit of rocking in our cobbler pose. Good. Good. And then from cobbler pose, when we've done a little bit of rocking or perhaps a little bit of circling, we'll come on into pinwheel. So let one knee come on top of the other knee and slide your top leg back and come to a little bit of circling here. Good. Very nice. You do a little bit of circling. Remember, we can always do this variation where we give ourselves a hug. So if your upper back and neck, shoulders are feeling tight, then it's quite nice to do this variation when we give ourselves a hug. We look down, we circle a bit. Good. And then whenever you're ready, we'll come into our pinwheel forward bend. So turning towards the knee that's going out to the side and folding the length of your body down over that thigh. And just coming to rest and settle. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Very nice. And just perhaps one or two more cycles of breath, just allowing yourself to settle down in pinwheel. And then starting to walk your hands back in towards you, coming upright, good, back into pinwheel. Let's move back into cobbler pose, just briefly perhaps. We could do these side lengthening ones in cobbler pose this time. Good. That feels okay. So make sure in this one you're using, if you're doing these, you're using the arm to support you on the floor. Good. So you can really, yeah, it's always hard to keep our spine long in cobbler pose if we're not using our arm to support us. Maybe once more on each side. Good. And then we'll move on to side to pinwheel. So let your top knee, so going the other way, let your top knee, good, come on top of the bottom leg, slide that leg back, come into a little bit of circling on side 2 and see how this feels. Very nice. Good. And again, remember, you could do the one where you give yourself a hug and you look down. If again, you're feeling that your upper back and neck would like, yeah, could do with a little bit of releasing, a little bit of finding some length there, space across the back of the shoulders and the back of the neck. And then whenever you're ready, you can come into your pinwheel forward bend by turning to that, towards that knee that's going out to the side and folding down over that leg. And then again, just seeing how it feels to sort of settle, to soften, to breathe there. Jan, would you like some water? I'm not really sure. Just say. Yeah. Good. So just give yourself a couple more breaths in pinwheel, and a sort of heavy feeling of the weight of your body on the ground. And from pinwheel, I'd like you, I think from here you can come fairly easily back onto hands and knees. So I'd like you to come onto hands and knees, and we're going to come back into dog pose. So come onto hands and knees and come into dog pose again and just see how this second dog pose feels after doing our sort of pinwheel movements. And perhaps maybe the backs of the legs can still feel tight, but maybe we've released and softened in some other ways. So what you're going to do this time is we're going to do dog pose, a few breaths, and then we're going to be walking our hands in towards our feet into a forward bend. We're not going to be coming up and standing, just in case you thought that's what we're going to be doing. So dog pose, walking our hands into a forward bend when you're ready. So walking your hands into your feet, feeling all of the weight in your feet. And again, some of you might want to bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs. Let your head go. And just maybe another breath or so in your forward bend. Again, feeling the length through the back of your legs. That's it. And also nice for the lower back. And then from here, we're going to go down through a squat. So you're going to start to bend your knees more. So they're bending straight forwards over your feet. Doesn't matter if your heels come up. That's fine. Yeah, you can let your heels come up. And from this squat, you're going to then have your fingertips on the ground and just gently try, as gently as you can, lower yourself down so you're sitting in cobbler pose once more. And then, in fact, what I'd like you to do is to then move your cobbler pose. So you've got your back against a wall or a sofa. So we're going to come back to cobbler pose and our wide sitting with our back against something. I'm just putting a block in front of the bookshelf. So yeah, yeah, that's it. Bed, sofa, wall, any sort of thing behind you that can help support your spine. So, and in fact, you've got a little choice now. So either, we're going to have a few cycles of quiet breath, and then we'll come on to our viloma breathing. So either cobbler pose, or if you prefer, your legs long and wide. So choose one of these. So either legs long and wide, or cobbler pose to start with. And just settling yourself down. If you're not sure, you can try both. Mel, you seem to have a lot of doggy assistance there. So Good. And however you're sitting, in cobbler pose or with your legs long and wide, you could rest your hands on your thighs. Make sure the back of your pelvis is right up against whatever support you've got behind you. Would you like a half block? I see my half. There you go, Jan. Thank you. Good. Yeah, so whatever support you've got behind you, just make sure your pelvis is right against that. And then let's just settle here in this position and have a couple of quiet breaths. So closing your eyes, letting your shoulders drop, and just seeing if you can feel your breath somewhere within you. So feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving you. And then again, feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving. And then we'll come on to just a little bit of our viloma breathing. I suggest maybe, if you're sitting with your legs long and wide, you maybe have them less wide. And if you're sitting in cobbler pose, you could just come into sort of an easy cross-legged pose. So maybe just bring one foot in front of the other. Yeah, that might just be a bit easier, or even cross your ankles. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just come to add these pauses into our out breath. So as we were doing last week, sort of lying on our belly and our back, and the week before. So once you've settled in your position, just closing your eyes again. And I'd like you to feel your breath coming in. So feel that inhalation expanding within you. We're just going to pause on our out breath. So then, as you start to exhale, you're going to exhale a little bit, and then pause your breath for a moment, and then carry on breathing out to the end of your out breath. And then let your breath come in. Now, you might have found with that first out breath, you could actually pause a couple of times in your next out breath. So see what that feels. So you're going to exhale, start to exhale, and then pause that out breath for a moment, and then carry on breathing out. See if you can pause again, and then breathe out to the end of your out breath. We're just going to do this 3 more times. So let a breath come in, and then as you exhale, you're going to pause once or twice in your out breath. If you feel that you could pause 3 times, that's absolutely fine, but don't push it. So you're breathing out a little bit, you're pausing your breath for a moment, you're breathing out a little bit more, you're pausing. And then you're breathing to the end of your exhalation without any feeling of strain. So let your breath come in, and do this twice more. So 2 more cycles of out breath where you're introducing 1 or 2 or 3 pauses into that out breath. And just when you finish, there's no rush, just have a normal cycle of breath where you're not pausing, where you're letting your breath come in, you're letting your breath leave you. And then when you're ready, you're going to come back to a dog pose, and we'll move from dog pose through a forward bend and up into standing this time. And just see, so sometimes when we come to focus on our breathing and then come back to moving, it maybe slows us down a little bit, and it enables us to be a little bit more aware of our breath in the movements. So let's see how it feels when you're coming into dog pose. I think our 3rd dog pose now, after sitting and breathing. So maybe you can be a little bit more aware of the flow of your breath in dog pose. And also our bodies are little by little undoing and releasing. So you can let yourself have a couple more breaths of dog pose, particularly if it's starting to feel more enjoyable. And then when you're ready, walking your hands in towards your feet so you end up in your forward bend. And again, if you want to bend your knees, rest your elbows on your thighs, you can do. If you feel you want a little bit of movement here and want to sweep your arms side to side around your feet, you can do that. Or if you feel that you just want to sort of have a few quiet breaths. Okay, Sally, things must be feeling reasonably okay in your back if you're sweeping your arms around, so I'm pleased to see it. And then in your own time, sinking into your heels. If your back is feeling a bit vulnerable, walk your hands up your thighs if you feel that would be helpful, coming up into standing. Good. So when you're ready, arriving in standing. Good. And so the first thing we'll do is just a sort of easy, loose swinging twist, just to get ourselves moving a little bit more. And then we're going to focus in with a few feet things. Good, that's very nice. So swinging your arms, let your arms slap onto your body. Just enjoy and let your feet move. Good, just enjoying the feeling of your whole body in movement. Lovely. Okay, let's let that go. Let's settle our feet down now. So our feet are a little distance apart. That's it. And then what I'd like you to do is start to slide one foot back behind you. So you can then come onto the top of your toes. That's it. And then see what it's like to straighten that knee. And just keeping quiet through the front of the body. It can be quite a stretch through the top of the foot. Good. Just let your arms hang. Very nice. And you could relax the knee a little bit, but just bounce your toes on the floor. Okay. So it's a sort of little mini balance if we're bouncing our toes on the floor. Good. Very nice. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So bring that foot back under your pelvis. Slide the other foot back behind you. So flip onto your toes first of all. And then you can see what it's like to straighten your knee a bit more, keeping quiet through the front of your body. Yeah, that's quite stretchy. And then you can soften that knee a little bit and then just bounce on your toes again and see how that feels. Yeah, good. Okay, and then bring that foot back under your pelvis again. And then we'll move the toes in a different way by this one, which we do quite a lot, where we're coming up onto the balls of our feet a few times. So a few times bringing your weight forwards onto the balls of your feet. So it is a little bit of a balance. It's also asking the sort of calves and the ankles. Yes, I shouldn't mention the B word, otherwise we'll get a little bit wobbly. Yeah, so all these. Yes, it's lots of things going on here. And if you do manage to feel steady with this one, you could then float your arms up, out and then up. Let your shoulders stay down if you can. Yeah, relaxed shoulders. And just for a couple of breaths, 2 or 3 breaths, trying to balance on the balls of your feet. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. Good. Very nice. And then when you come down from this one, you can let your heels come down, sweep your arms all the way down into a forward bend. And again, when you're in that forward bend, you can, yes, if you want to sweep your arms from side to side, you can do. If you want to bend your knees a little bit more, you can do. So very nice, whatever you feel like doing in that forward bend. It could be bending your knees, resting your elbows on your thighs. Good. And then in your own time, sink into your heels and roll up into standing. Good. maybe just give each leg a little shake out. And then what I'd like us to do before we move on to something else in standing is revisit the first thing we did. So come back to sliding your foot back behind you and flipping onto the top of your toes again. And you can do the straightening the knee one, you can do the sort of bouncing on the top of your toes, whichever you prefer. Sometimes my foot starts to get a bit crampy. Yeah, Jan, it's good to try and feel your pelvis stays balanced here.
I'm aware of tensing up, and then it sort of makes my back a bit uncomfortable.
Okay, yeah, so really good. So yes. Yeah. And try the same thing on the other side. So again, coming onto the top of the toes, and there's either that sort of straightening the knee, or there's sort of with the knee a bit softer, just bouncing on the top of your toes. Okay, good. And then maybe just another shake out for the legs. So from here, we're going to have a little bit of space in front of you on your mat, and you're going to step one foot forwards. So it doesn't matter which foot. And we're going to come to this one where we're rocking forwards and back. So we've got a bit of sideways space between our feet, which I think you all know. And you're just coming to this movement where we're seeing how it feels to bring our weight into our front foot, come up onto the ball of the back foot, and then come onto the heel of the front foot. So in some ways, we're asking our feet to move in similar ways as we were a moment ago. And we're just going to do from here. Yes, from here, we're going to be coming down into a forward bend. I might just show you before. We're going to come into a forward bend here, bending the front knee. And then you're going to come all the way down into this sprint type position. And then from there, we're going to 3 times go in and out from the sprint position into the forward bend. I'm afraid this is rather hard work, but well, maybe not too bad. So with your foot stepped forwards, let your front knee bend. And then you're going to start to fold forwards over that bent front leg. So your front knee's bent, your back leg stays straight. You're folding forwards over your bent front leg. You're releasing down, so hopefully your fingertips come towards the floor. If your fingers don't reach the floor at this point, you can always put a book under your fingertips. And then you start to bend your back knee. So now you're bending your back knee, so your back knee comes down towards the ground. It may not reach completely. Good. And then reverse that movement back into your forward bend. So start straightening out your back leg until your chest stays close to your thigh, letting your head go. And then come back down into that little sort of sprint position again. Good, all the way down. And then back up. We'll do that once more after this. And it can feel quite hard work for the legs. Good. So coming back down. And then this time we'll go all the way back up again. So sinking down into the heels, sinking into both footprints, coming all the way back up into standing. Good. And then have a little shake out. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So when you're ready, step the other foot forwards. And just that's it. Yeah. Foot forward. Start to rock your weight forwards and back. Good. So heel of the front foot, ball of the back foot. And we're going to do those same movements. So in a moment, we're going to settle both feet down. We want to feel steady at this point. So make sure you've got that sort of sideways space between your feet if your feet were quite sort of narrow before. Let the front knee bend, keep the back heel planted into the ground. First of all, come into that forward bend where we're folding forwards over the bent front leg. We can rest our arms on that. And then we go a bit lower. So we're bringing our chest close to our front leg thigh. Our fingertips come down towards the floor. And then we start to bend the back knee. So of course the back heel comes off the ground. Good. And it may be that your back knee can come onto the ground. It depends really on that foot. It's quite asking quite a lot of the toes. It doesn't matter if the back knee doesn't come down. And then reverse that movement. So go back into your forward bend. Let your head go. Have a breath or so. And then come back down towards the ground again, bending that back knee. Good. Good. We'll come up into the forward bend and we'll go back down one more time. So come into the forward bend, the back leg straightens, And then one last time, come down into that little sort of sprint position. And then this time, as we start to straighten the back leg, we'll go all the way back up into standing. So sinking down into the feet. And coming back up. Good. And then having a little shake out. So well done. I always find that's really hard work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go from a forward bend into a squat, which will hopefully feel a lot easier because I think we do it a lot more frequently. So when you're ready, from standing, feet a little distance apart, exhaling, let yourself come into a forward bend. And again, give yourself a few breaths in your forward bend. If you want to do your sweeping your arms from side to side, you can do. That might feel quite a nice release from what we were just doing. And then whenever you're ready to move down into your squat, start to bend your knees. Let the knees bend forwards over the feet. And it's fine if your heels come up. And if your heels do come up and you've got a cushion or something nearby, then you can always slide it under your heels. And once you're down in your squat, you can always help yourself make it a little bit easier by letting your knees come wider apart. And then your body folds down in between your knees a bit. Good. And hopefully, yeah, Sally and Janice, hopefully good for the lower back. Yeah, excellent. Good. And just maybe have one more cycle of breath in your squat. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then we're going to move back up into standing. So if your heels have come up, you just, remove the cushion at this point. Start to send your heels down to the floor. Definitely make sure you're not standing on the cushion now. And then your sit bones have gone up to the ceiling, and then you're starting to roll up into standing. Good. And then let's just have a little shake out in standing. Good. So at the backs of our mats, we're now going to go through a forward bend dog pose and down onto hands and knees for a few things there, and onto our backs, but we'll get there eventually. So at the back of your mat, hands in prayer pose, you're going to let a breath come in. As you exhale, take your arms down and then up. You feel long and tall here, and then as you exhale, rounding forwards into a forward bend. And then whenever you're ready, on into dog pose. And just again, seeing how this dog pose feels. If at this point you feel that you'd like to do any of your one-leg dogs, because I think this is possibly a couple more dog poses, but if you'd like to do any of your one-leg dogs at this point, you could do. Very nice, that's just an option. So if you are lifting one leg off the ground, you know there's always different variations. Your pelvis can be level, you can let your pelvis roll. Good. Very nice. And then when you reach the ground, when you bring your knees onto the ground, I want you to come up into this slightly strange position where we're in what I call up kneeling. Yes, so you're sort of sitting up and you could be down and kneeling if you prefer, Jan. So if your knees don't like this, you can sit your bottom down. But I just wanted you to swing your arms, and this is quite a good position to do it. It's often better than sitting down and kneeling. Good. So you can be in this sort of up kneeling. Swinging your arms, and think about this being sort of an easy twist. So that's it, your shoulders are moving. Good. And then from here, and you may need to use your fingertips on the ground, I tend to, we're going to step 1 foot forwards, not all the way into lunge, into this sort of part-way position. Good, so we've got our front knee under our front heel. And then we're going to turn towards that front leg. So that leg we've stepped forwards, we're going to turn towards, thinking about, that's it, staying upright, mate, that's it. Thinking about the back shoulder dropping and giving away the back arm. Good, very nice. Yeah, that's right, Francis, good, that looks lovely. So another couple of breaths there. And then from here, we can untwist. And we can then fold forwards over that front leg, and then we'll tuck our toes under in our back foot and walk the back leg further away, so we come into more of a lunge. And in your lunge, I'd like you just to be really aware of what you feel. So in our lunge, there's always this feeling, I think, of a big stretch through the front of the back leg thigh, but also how does it feel here? Notice how it feels in the front leg, in the back of the thigh, and into your buttock, and whether there's any feeling of stretching there as well. So sometimes I think because lunge can feel quite intense in the back leg, we maybe don't notice other things that are going on. And just see if you can bear to give yourself a few more breaths here in your lunge. So the weight of the pelvis dropping to the ground, this feeling of stretching through the front of the back leg, but also maybe, you know, what's going on in the back of the front leg. And then from here, we can ease back. So we can untuck our back toe and then rock back. So actually now, if you keep your chest close to your thigh, your front thigh, and look back behind you, you'll probably maybe for now feel more of a stretch through the front of that back thigh. And then before we do this little sequence on the other side, I'd like you to come into another dog pose. So maybe just come onto hands and knees. Plant your hands on the ground and come to have a few breaths in dog. So it doesn't need to be a particularly long dog pose. Just coming to have a few breaths in dog. And the more times we do dog, perhaps there's more of that possibility of feeling really comfortable in dog, of settling in dog, of feeling the movement of our breath somewhere within our body. Very nice, dogs, yes. And again, when you come back from dog, we're going to come into that sort of funny up kneeling position again. So where you're, that's it, leaning up here. Good. And again, you're just swinging your arms. That's nice. Good. Just so no camel, Sally. That would be a little bit alarming for you today, I think, and Jan probably. Good. Swinging your arms. And then we'll step the other foot forwards. So whichever foot you didn't step forwards last time for the lunge and the twist, you're going to step forwards now. I'm doing the same one, just so I don't have to turn away from you. But do the other one, please, everyone else. So start to turn towards your front leg. That's nice. And with the back shoulder, we're thinking about the back shoulder moving back, but also down. So can the back arm be sort of heavy and relaxed? Can we drop that back shoulder? Good, good. That's very nice. And just feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave us. It's not always the easiest place to feel steady, but we're looking for that movement, that feeling of movement in the rib cage, in the spine between the shoulder blades. And then we can untwist. And you can come on into your lunge. So folding forwards over your front leg. I'll just swap legs now. So folding forwards over your front leg, tucking your toes under in your back leg, walking it away. And then just, again, what do we feel in lunge? So again, for me, it's very much, it's, you know, the first thing I feel, and it's quite loud, is that stretch through the front of the back leg thigh. But is there other stuff going on? What about the back of the front leg thigh? How are the shoulders? That's a good place to notice. Can we keep the shoulders soft and relaxed? There are variations in lunge where we lift our head, we come up higher, but today just keep looking down at the ground, keep the shoulders soft and relaxed. Good. Give yourself another couple of breaths and just maybe focusing on the legs and what you feel in your legs. Front of the back thigh, back of the front thigh. And then we can ease back, untuck that back toe, rock back. Keep the chest close to the thigh, look back behind us. Good. Lovely. And then this really will be the last one last dog pose. Okay, so make the most of it. And again, each time we come into dog, perhaps we were undoing a little bit more. Can you just, be there? So this feeling of being able to rest down through our arms, send our pelvis back, and then locate the feeling of our breath somewhere within ourselves. And from dog pose, you're going to fold down into child pose whenever you're ready. I was just thinking we've done quite a lot of dog, or kneeling melody, but I was thinking we've done quite a lot of dog pose today, not very much child pose. So let yourself settle. Have a couple of quiet breaths here. Now, from child pose, Sally, we're going to be coming onto our belly and just doing a bit there. So it might be that you just want to lie on your belly, or you might want to come over onto your back. So just see how you go. So from child pose, we're going to slither forwards onto our belly. We're going to do something we did last week, which I think all of you know. So I'm not going to do a preliminaries. We're going to do this sort of rocket, both hands planted. But I'll talk you into that in a moment. I'd just like you to settle on your belly and give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. And so if for any reason today that being on your belly is not good, you can roll over onto your back. Or you could just be on your belly, give the pelvis a little bit of a wiggle. You don't necessarily need to do the rest. So then what I'd like you to do, and we did this last week, is to organise yourself so you've got your hands standing on the floor beneath your shoulders. That's it. So your elbows come off the floor and you've got your forehead on the floor. And what you're doing is pressing into one hand and then the other. So as you press into one hand, that shoulder lifts and you roll on your forehead. That's it. So you press into one hand. That's it. That shoulder lifts and you let your head roll in that direction. Good. And then you stop pressing into that hand and you press into the other hand and you let your head roll to that side. That's nice. So you're rolling side to side across your forehead as you press into one hand and then the other. And as we press into one hand, that shoulder lifts. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Now, the next bit, you just keep it easy. The next bit is to press into both hands together and also to lift your head. So you come into, it can be a little mini cobra, So your chest might come away from the floor a little bit. And just go easy with this. And so maybe you do that, and then maybe come back to a little bit more pressing into one hand, pressing into the other. Francis, you look like possibly you could have your hands a bit further down on the mat. So try that. So if it feels okay for you, do this 3 times. Where you press down into your hands and you come up into a little cobra. And then in between, you go back and you roll across side to side. And Francis, if you felt better where you were previously, just ignore me and go back to where you were. So good. Very nice. And whenever you've had enough, if you want to do this 3 times, you can do. Very nice, Sarah. Whenever you've had enough, you're going to roll onto your back and fold your knees into your chest. Lovely, Jan. That's beautiful. Good. So roll onto your back, fold your knees into your chest. So we're back lying down again. So with your knees folded into your chest, that's it. You can do a little bit of rocking from side to side. And then we're going to do a little bit of movement here. We are going to do a little bit of breathing. So from here, keep your right knee folded into your chest and lengthen your left leg out on the floor. That's it. Once you've done that, roll your left leg on the floor a little bit. So we're thinking about that left leg just being really heavy and relaxed on the ground, quite passive. Good, good. And this is quite a nice place to be. And I'm afraid we're going to somewhere that's a little bit more effort. So from here, what you're going to do is then keep your right thigh close to your chest. So you might hold one hand around the back of your right knee. And then you're bringing your right foot towards the ceiling. You're trying to orientate your right foot towards the ceiling, but keep your chest close to your thigh. So I always imagine here, and it might be that you can then catch onto your ankle or your foot or your toes with your hands. You don't have to. So you're imagining here that you're in a lunge, but you're upside down. Yeah? And actually, what do you feel here? So I tend to feel this is much more, because my left leg is sort of passive on the ground. Yes, Lynn, it's sort of stretched through the back of the right leg thigh. So just give yourself a couple of breaths here. And whenever it gets a little bit intense, you can relax your right heel back to your bottom and just sort of relax that top leg. And then there's a further variation you can do. So again, you've got your thigh close to your chest, you've got your knee bent and the sole of your foot towards the ceiling. And then you're going to start to just turn your knee out a little bit. So your knee is now sort of moving down towards your armpit, towards the floor, the outside of your body. So the knee's turned out a little bit, but the sole of your foot still pointing towards the ceiling. Now that movement might be a little bit easier if you bend your left leg and send your left foot on the floor. Okay, that's it. So in that one, Sally, just think about your foot orientated more towards the ceiling. That's it, yeah. So you've turned your knee out, but you've still got, so it's a bit like a lunge where we come onto the inside of the front leg. That's it, good. Good, very nice. And this is all quite stretchy and intense, so whenever you've had enough, lengthen that right leg out on the floor and just have two long legs for a moment, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. That's it. So lengthen your legs out on the floor. Good. Give them a little roll, give your knees a little bounce. And then fold your left knee into your chest. So keep your right leg long. That's it. Leave your right leg long on the ground, fold your left knee into your chest. So you can enjoy. This is quite a nice place to be, where we've got our left knee folded in, our right leg is long. We can roll the right leg on the floor. And just think about our right leg being really heavy and passive on the ground. And then we can make it a little bit more of a challenge, where we start to, so keep your left thigh close to your chest. You can bring one arm around the back of that leg if you like. And then start to bring your left foot, so it's orientated towards the ceiling. So we're coming into that idea that we're in a lunge, but on our back. And it might be you can catch your left ankle, you want to catch your left foot, or you can just, one arm around the back of the thigh is still quite good. And give yourself a couple of breaths though. And again, it's a bit, where do we feel this? Our right leg is long on the ground. That's quite relaxed. It's probably the stretch through the back of the left thigh into our hamstrings there. And then you can relax for a minute. Bring your left heel back towards your bottom and just let that top leg relax for a moment. Or you could take it up to the ceiling and shake it out, lengthen it out, that's another option. And then you can try the variation where so you come back to your left knee being bent, your left foot orientated towards the ceiling, but now you're letting your knee turn out to the side a little bit, out to the side, and then you're encouraging your knee to come sort of down towards the floor near your armpit. It's not going to reach there necessarily. You might do.
And to help that, you could bend your right knee like we did last time and stand your right foot on the floor. So that might make it a little bit easier if you do that, and just, yeah, see how you get on.
So again, this is a bit like where we're doing a lunge and we come onto the inside of the front leg. Good. And again, yes, don't feel that you've got to stay there too long. It's quite intense in that leg. And you can then lengthen both legs out on the floor. And then what I wanted to do after this, so Sally, you won't want to do this, and I'll give you the next bit that you might want to do. What I felt I wanted to do after this was just 2 or 3 times, quite easily, roll up and down through bridge pose to feel that I was opening out through the front of my hip joints. And Sally, I don't think you probably want to do that, so maybe just lie quietly. Good, that's it. So bending your knees, standing your feet on the floor, just a couple of, 2 or 3 times, rolling up and down, letting yourself open out through the front of the pelvis. Yes, and Sally, what we're going to all do after that, and you could do that now, is with your knees folded in, but you could cross one leg on top of the other. So it's a bit like so it is like you're doing sort of cow on your back. Yeah, and that should be quite nice.
How many times? 3?
Yeah, so 2 or 3 times bridge pose, whatever you feel. Yes, and when you've done your bridge pose 2 or 3 times, you're going to all join Sally by crossing one knee over the other knee and folding your knees in towards you. So little cow legs on your back. You don't need to push this, but yeah, crossing one knee over the other knee, folding the knees into your chest. So you're doing a little bit of cow legs on your back. Good. And then you can change the cross of your legs. Like give your legs a shake out for a moment before you come onto side 2. That's it. And then that's it, just coming into cow legs on the other side. And just make your focus the knees folding into your chest with the knees crossed. And we can feel very nice and wide across the back of the pelvis and the lower back. And then from here, maybe just uncross your legs, give both legs a shake up in the air. Good. And then we're going to finish with a bit more of our viloma breathing. And you can choose to lie down, but if you would prefer to sit now, then that is also an option, because we've been lying down for a little bit. And yeah, so just decide whether you prefer to lie down or to come back to your sitting position with your back against the wall or the sofa. So see what you'd like to do. Yeah, and wherever you are, make sure you're going to be warm enough. Say this in June, but that's how it is. So yeah, so either lying down or a comfortable sitting position. It could be legs long and a little distance apart, or it could be legs crossed. And with some support for your back. And then whether you're lying or sitting, so if you're lying, it would probably be nice to have your hands on the front of your body. And use that. In sitting, you could also have the hands on the front of your body. So perhaps, yeah, choose whether you want to have your hands on the front of your body. And if you're in sitting, you could rest your hands on your thighs. And if you're lying, you could rest your arms on the floor. Just see what's more helpful for you. And then start by just gathering your attention into your breathing and feeling the movement of the in and the out breath through your body. And we're going to do exactly the same breathing we did earlier on in the class, but we're just going to, as we let a breath come in, and at the end of your in-breath, before you start exhaling, just pause for a moment at that point. So receive your inhalation. And then pause your breath before you start to breathe out. And then breathing out a little bit. Pausing. Perhaps breathing out a little bit more. Pausing your breath. And then exhaling all the way to the end of your out breath. And then again, let a breath come in. And when you reach the end of your inhalation, then just again pause for a moment before the out breath leaves you. So that's our first pause at the end of the in breath. And then we breathe out a little bit. We pause. We breathe out a little bit more. That maybe takes us to the end of the out breath. We maybe pause again. And then we carry on breathing out to the end of the exhalation. And then receive your in-breath. So we'll do this for 3 more cycles of breath. So let the breath come in. At the end of the inhalation, just that pause. Exhaling a little bit, pausing. Maybe exhaling a little bit more, pausing. And then all the way to the end of the out-breath. And then receiving your inhalation. Feeling that in-breath expand within you. At the end of the inhalation, pause. Exhale a little bit, pause, and so on. And so in your own time, just 1 more cycle of breath. So the in-breath, the pause at the end of the inhalation, and then pausing once, twice, 3 times during your out-breath, whatever feels comfortable for you. Good. And then just letting all of that go and just let yourself return to your natural breath, perhaps for 2 or 3 cycles of breath before I ring the singing bowl. So if you're lying down, just take your time to come round. If you're sitting, you might have to fold forwards a little bit. That's it, Sarah. So you could fold forwards a little bit, let your shoulders soften, relax. So thank you very much, everyone. Good seeing. Thank you, everyone on Zoom. Bye.
Thank you. Are those peonies you've got there?
They're peonies, yes, and they're every time I walk in the room, they've shed a whole load of petals, but they're very beautiful.
I've been enjoying them all class.
Have you? Oh, good.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.